mean, to be quite frank, there were a lot of emotions, and at 9 years old, like you don't know how to deal with all of them.
Hello, and welcome to Guess Who Died, a podcast where we talk about who died and how we feel about it with Jeff, myself, Julia, and producer KC in the back. All right, Jeff.
Do you want to go first?
I was going to say, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I think the tone's a little bit different today.
Yes.
I did not bring anyone.
Oh.
Because I am going to be asking you, Jeff.
Oh.
Who died?
My mom. January 27th. It was a Monday. I got a bunch of phone calls while I was napping, and I kept missing them, and I woke up and made the call in my worst nightmare. So yeah, it was almost, we were talking a couple months ago about this very thing, about a book that you were talking about my mom died. And I'm like, I don't want to see that book anytime soon, but here we sit. And I did better than I thought with that.
Wow.
It's been up and down. It's been little jags of tears, a lot of weird memories creeping through that I haven't thought about in a long time. A lot of laughing at those memories, knowing that she's she was never in the last few years. She's not been in the place she wanted to be, health wise, life wise. I talked to her the night before. We had a half-hour talk. She sounded fine. I got to tell her I loved her, so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah,
I have no regrets. I would have liked to have seen her again, but when my dad passed, I had regrets. You could have done this. You should have done this more. You could have done this. And I did my best. And my aunt talked to me the day after. She said, don't feel guilty about not going over to see her as often as you'd like, because she didn't look at that and think anything of it. She called regularly, and, it was, it's still hard to believe. The whole week went pretty fast, but I wasn't in a fog. We had talked, and I said I was pretty clear.
Yeah.
My mind was clear. I knew what I was doing. I didn't feel like that grief fog that people have, and I've been through. And I think because I had to step up because my sister's recovering from illness, and she's back home now, which is good. But I really had to lean into it and do a lot of the stuff, including the obituary. And Monday was bad when I found out, obviously. And then I kept busy through the week. And then Friday morning, when I saw the obituary, the floodgates opened again. And then I posted it so everybody would know. And as the comments would roll in, I would well up and I'd, cry. And then they started to dissipate, but I started to I had the feels with every person's comment that I read. And it had a little healing with each read. With each time I said it out loud to somebody, the tears didn't come as easily.
Yeah.
Like today, I was like, I don't know how I didn't know how I was going to react. And when I saw you and, face to face, and, the hugs that we give each other when we see each other, I didn't know how I was going to react. And I was a little nervous coming up today, but I'm doing okay.
And funnily enough, our door system was broken. So I can imagine you walking up full of nerves. How's this going to be? Is everyone going to feel so sorry for me? And you ring the doorbell full of courage. And then for 10 minutes, we leave you sit out there because we didn't even know you were ringing the doorbell.
The irony is first time I ever noticed a doormat. Yay, you're here, but we're not going to answer.
Oh, that is too funny. We broke the tension by accident.
I will say that being involved with Olivia's house through the years, I really leaned into a lot of the conversations we've had over the years on the air here. Just personally, it's really helped. And I never thought I was going to do as good as I'm doing right now. I always thought it would destroy me.
Yeah.
Emotionally. And she was ready. She was 100% ready.
Yeah.
And that brings me peace. So
It's so interesting you say that because, like you said, a few months ago, we were sitting in these same seats and we're talking about the book Dead Moms Club.
That's
and
what it was.
You looked me right in my eyes and you said, I don't want to be reading that anytime soon. And that was the emotion of fear of how will I survive that was so overwhelming. And now I see you sitting here saying, oh, this sucks so bad. And I survived it. And that fear is gone.
Before I came, I keep saying it seems more real because little things happen. Like I got something in the mail the other day from the cemetery, and today I got a phone call from the funeral home. The death certificates are in. I'm like, did somebody write this out on the perfect timeline for what's going on here today and what we talked about before? And it's just like the cosmos was getting me ready. And it's more often than not with me that something will come up, I'll say something or feel something, and it just,
Yeah.
So here we sit.
Here we sit.
If I'm going to be in a good place, this is the best place to be talking about it.
Well, I have to ask this producer Casey question, which is I know because I listen to you on air. So you call your mom your number one fan. And I think that's so cool. But before we go, what was your mom's name, Jeff?
Brenda.
Brenda. Okay.
We were, and don't want to leave out, I was born on her 21st birthday. 2 days before she passed, she posted a picture from my 40th birthday party of us dancing. I don't know why she did that.
The cosmos preparing
She
you.
may have sent something
Sure.
because we were talking about things that she wanted to make sure we're okay and taken care of. Like, you need to make sure this is still going to be okay. I'm like, that's fine. Everything's good. But it was in a jovial whole conversation, even talking about football and telling her to stop giving away the play that was coming up next. She was 3 or 4 seconds ahead of me on the football game, and just normal conversation. And then love you, and she's like, and she always signed off because it was in the evening, night. She never said goodbye. She hated saying goodbye.
Night.
Yeah, and I have messages in my phone that well, okay, that's a good question. What do you do with that? I have her messages in my phone that I can listen to now and still hear her voice. What do you do? I don't think I'll ever delete them.
Yeah. It's different for everyone. I personally still have my grandmother. I called her Nan. I still have our text thread in my phone, and I am a compulsive text deleter. I delete threads. I probably only have 4 in there right now, but at the very bottom, the last one is Nan because the last text she sent me was that little emoji of 2 pink hearts. And so it just says Nan and 2 pink hearts, and it was sent sometime in May of 2020. Which was a crazy time. And I will never delete it. And every time I swipe away my messages, I think, could I? And the answer is nope, I'm just going to leave it. But
I just listened the other night, and I can hear her say those very words to me whenever I want.
I can say I have a dear friend, and he's like a brother to me. And his actual mother was like a mom to me. And when she died and when his father died, he actually paid for their cell phones to stay online just so that he could call and get their voicemail and hear their message on their voicemail. So I think he paid for their phones to be live for 2 years. So, it's whatever makes you feel good. It's whatever gives you peace. And there's no right or wrong to that. The question I wanted to ask you, Jeff, because I think this is so interesting and people would appreciate. I did when you told me about this was you shared your story on air. Tell me about that. What led you to that decision? How did that feel? What was that like? Because most people, myself included, aren't such public entities.
And just to be clear, Jeff is on air in his day job. So this is not that he dropped it necessarily on air here on the pod. But yeah, during your job, you did this.
Well, when I was off, they shared that I was dealing with some family stuff. And some people ask offline or on the text, and we told a couple people that were regulars, and she's like, "I hope that was okay." I'm like, "It's fine." And I had to go back the day before the actual funeral, and that I was like, "Why can't I just get the week out and go back?" So that day I went back, and it was probably we were almost through the show, and somebody came in that works with us in the sales, and she said, "Sorry about your mom." And I'm like thinking, why would you come into the studio while we're on the air, not knowing, that I'm going to spill this on the air? And I'm like, might as well just do it now. We're so personal in what we talk about on the air. I could not say about anything about it. So when I did, I said, Joe was like, well, what happened? And basically, like Julia said, guess who died, man? Who died? And I said, and the best way I could put it was, I lost my biggest fan. And then I lost myself for a second, and I stopped, and I'm like, help me out here a little bit. And she started talking, and I regained my composure, and I just explained what had happened, and that was that. It wasn't easy, but if I would have done it by myself in the studio, it would have been very difficult. So having her there as a crutch, that helped.
There is such power in being able to share. And I think even you were talking about reading the comments as they rolled in on the post when you posted the obit, and that you embodied what we say, feel it to heal it. Every comment that rolled in, you let the tears come, and that is healing in action. A lot of people don't give themselves that or afford themselves that opportunity. And I think it's so important. And I remember even going back to Nan, who died, I asked at my company, at our organization, if I could make a post about her loss, because I didn't have my own social media. And I was thinking, that it would be so nice to be able to commemorate, and to see those comments come in. It does provide that comfort. So I think that's so special. You were able to ask for that and receive it and feel the good healing that came from that. But doesn't mean the process is over.
No,
Very much still in the beginning parts of that process.
Well, I think it goes, Julia, something that you often say, grief shared is grief diminished. And that's part of the goal of this podcast, is being able to share our experiences and find commonality in all of us. So, Jeff, I just have to say thank you for being so brave to share your experience in such a public way. That's not something that is often done and spoken about, and for you as a ambassador of Olivia's House to do it and feel comfortable doing so is so remarkable. So thank you.
And you both gave me the out, and I'm like, this is what we're here for. And we're going to be talking to someone later, and it's going to be a whole different realm of what our guest dealt with to what I dealt with my loss.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of all tied together in a weird way.
Yeah.
The best way to put it, I didn't want to say in a good way because it's not good, but it can give our listeners something to really latch on to, because on one hand, I lost a mom. Maybe you're losing, she wasn't, she'd lost my stepdad 25 years ago. So there was no spouse, but my sister, I don't know how she's dealing with this. She just got home. So I don't even know how she's dealing with it right now. Her feeling was she wasn't there when she needed her the most. I'm like, you helped her beat cancer 20 years ago. You were there when she needed you the most. And see, that's where I'm hoping that my way of dealing with this can maybe be there for her and help her to be able to handle her grief. But I don't know. We'll see.
We will see. And I know you said you don't want to call it good, but I think making connection is good.
Yes.
And in that regard too, I'm excited to bring our guest on today because they have a story to tell. They are going to be the youngest at the table here, but the person with the most experience on what it's like to lose a mom. So stay tuned. When we come back, we are going to be welcoming our guest for the episode on Guess Who Died? Olivia's House is an independent, freestanding, nonprofit grief and loss center that supports children and their families before, during, or after a loss, all at no cost. When death enters your house, you are welcome at our house, where families are met with professional care, expert guidance, and resources for children and teens of any age. Nestled in central Pennsylvania, Olivia's house continues to be the premier independent grief and loss center. Welcome back to Guess Who Died with Julia, Jeff, producer KC, and now joining us is our guest today, Paige. Welcome, Paige.
Hi, thank you.
Okay, Paige and Jeff do not know each other, and they do not know each other's stories at all. So Paige did not hear any of our intro conversation that we just had.
Right.
But you guys unfortunately have something in common. I was just talking about this book the other day that I really love. It's called Dead Moms Club. And you and Jeff are both members of that club. Jeff, a very recent inductee.
Now, see, I was going to see if we could go through it and see how long we could go. You ripped that bandage off right away. But yeah, just weeks ago.
Okay.
And we have a very different version of a story on this. And I'm looking forward to hearing yours. And I think we all are.
So, Paige, when I ask you, the title of the pod is Guess Who Died. When I ask you who died, tell us a little bit of your story.
Well, I lost my mom to brain cancer when I was 9. She was ill for 3 years. It was right after my family had moved to the United States from England. And I went through the Olivia's House program in spring of 2013. So, long time ago.
Yes. So you were 9 when your mom died. You have how many siblings? Where are you in the family tree?
I am the middle child of my biological family, but my dad remarried and my stepmom has 2 kids of her own. So they're both younger than me.
Okay. So you have one older than you, and then you're right in the middle. What was that like, having a mom that was sick with you and your siblings?
It was definitely difficult. I mean, there were so many times, like I look back on certain things and they kind of make me giggle in a sense because it's very sad, but also kind of gives me a lighthearted giggle because there are stories that I can tell about her when she was ill. Like one of the ones that I think back on a lot is when she was pouring chocolate milk over frozen garlic bread.
Okay.
Was that part of
Intrigued?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's obviously extremely sad to know that like her brain was affected that much that she like didn't even know what she was doing. Oh. But
for that to be the outcome is still a funny visual.
Yeah, like every time I think about it, I just laugh.
Like chocolate milk and garlic bread is almost like a band name or something, or like a hardcore band or something. I don't know. I'm kind of into it.
I thought it was an English thing.
Right, exactly.
That's why I was intrigued. I'm like, is that something new we don't know about?
Jeff's taking notes like, hey, defrost garlic bread, pour milk.
But it's interesting that you find a way to remember and laugh even in some of the saddest times. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, I can't imagine not having my mom through my teenage years, high school years, and to adulthood. And I'm thankful. And knowing part of your story, I'm like, this is so ironic that we're sitting here today, so fresh off of what happened to me, and you've got so much experience with what you've dealt with, and I was really anxious to meet with you today. I mean,
you're an expert. You really are.
An unfortunate expert, right? Yeah.
Unfortunate expert. That's right.
So at 9 years old, when you lost your mom, rolling with those emotions at 9. Mm-hmm. How did you deal with the emotions at 9 years old before Olivia's house?
Well, I mean, to be quite frank, there were a lot of emotions, and at 9 years old, like you don't know how to deal with all of them. In fact, my dad had actually lost his own mother around the same age, brain cancer as well, and so he actually put me in therapy immediately because he never had those resources when his mother passed away, and he wanted me to have a place that I could talk and whatnot. So I did I did art therapy. I did bereavement therapy. I did, I guess, cognitive behavioral therapy. I did a lot of therapy. But I also found comfort in like started to write. I would write stories. Obviously, none of it's published, but like I found other coping mechanisms, and I feel like I kind of built up an extra layer of skin because of it.
Wow. Well, and the fact that your dad went through the same thing is unreal. And that was a tool to help you. I mean, he was there, he knew what you needed, and he put you on the right path to that, which it's weird how life prepares us. As you went through all that therapy and coming out on the other side, and you start to go through the birthdays and the teenager, you become a teenager. How did you and your dad interact with that happening without your mom around?
I mean, so my stepmom came into the family pretty shortly after my mother passed away. She had been a family friend for a while, but they didn't get married until a few years ago. So I kind of had her as a role model, kind of a mother figure that I could look up to. And she supported my dad through, obviously, the things that my mom would have supported him through and whatnot. So I feel like she was kind of like the glue that held us together. And I think like reflecting back on it, like she really helped my dad and supported him through that. 'Cause I mean, that was the second most important woman in his life gone. So after his own mother. So, I can't even put myself in his shoes to understand how that would have felt for him at the time.
What was that like? As much as you love and your stepmom is wonderful and awesome, like that's still such a change to go from here's my mom and dad, now my mom is sick, now she has died, and now here's another person. Could be the most angelic and is, but how do you deal with that? What does that bring up for you?
At the time, it was actually super exciting because I was very close with, I guess I still am. I'm close with her two sons. And so when they like moved in with us, I was like, oh, this is so fun. Like, I have friends that we're going to live together and it's just going to be one big happy family. But obviously like those feelings are temporary. Siblings all have like their differences, and especially when you're not, biological. But as time went on, like, we figured out those differences, and things got harder at times, but I don't know, we still figured it out. It was like a difficult sorry, I don't know.
Looking for the right word.
Transition, adjustment. Yeah. I'm wondering, it's sounding like, now no parents are perfect, of course, but it sounds like the adults in the situation were united in the sense of trying to make sure you all were feeling supported. I mean, you were getting therapy. I'm not that I'm not being a fly on the wall, but is that accurate? Because I imagine if both adults in the family aren't fully on board with making this work, blending a family right after a loss can be full of pitfalls. So do you remember what their engagement was like with the kids when you were there?
Yeah. I mean, my dad has always, I don't talk a lot about my emotions with my dad. I think that's why he put me in therapy, was to kind of bridge that gap. Especially in art therapy, he would have his own meetings with my therapist, and then like would kind of bridge that gap together, so that he knew he was on the same page with me, even though we didn't directly talk about it with one another. And then my stepmom, I mean, she had no daughters of her own, so she was also trying to navigate this new kind of lifestyle where she now had, my sister's older, so she had been moved out by that point. So she now had a daughter essentially to raise, and I'm sure she struggled with that. Like I said, we had our differences and we figured them out pretty quickly, but we got through it. And
at that age, because I had a stepdad, and I know that I butted heads with my stepdad because he wasn't dad. Did you have that a lot? Not a lot?
no, I think it was more so like battling for my dad's attention. In a sense.
Okay.
It was like, I don't know. I recall specific times where we butted heads, but I don't remember what caused it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if I had to guess, it was because we were kind of fighting for my dad's attention.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. And in a lot of cases, that may be. I know a lot of the arguments that happened in our house growing up were because of me. And my mom was a protector, and she wasn't going to stand down and let him treat me unfairly. So I know you can. And most of the time, you don't know what caused it anyway. It was just something.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I was fighting for my mom's attention in some ways. So I kind of get where you're coming from. Different situation, obviously.
Yeah.
When did you know that you had that connection, that mother-daughter feel? Did you ever? I mean, did you get to a point where you're like, that light bulb just burned brightly, and you're like, okay, this is a connection. This is that mother-daughter feeling.
I would say it probably took until like they got married where I was kind of just like she was part of my life, but like as far as like her family accepting us as well, it was more real when they got married. It's like, okay, I don't call you my stepmom to make it easy for people to understand. Like, you are now my stepmom.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Because I used to say she was like my dad's girlfriend, but like she lived with us, and so it was like a different dynamic and people wouldn't really understand like how much she meant to our family if I just said she was my dad's girlfriend.
Totally. Yeah, those labels really do have an inference, and they make people think things and feel things and attach their own experience to it. And I think even when you were talking about kind of competing for dad's attention, like Jeff said, that's so natural, but it's because we do have this sort of possessive relationship to people. For you, that's my dad. You know, that is my dad. You're a person that we just met kind of recently, but whereas to her, that's my partner, you know, and you're his kids, and we always do this. We do it with everyone that we're connected to, and to be able to reshape those relationships, that now it's not my dad and your husband, but it's our family. What does this look like, even if it's not all blood ties? So that's a big journey to go through. I'm sure there were ups and downs during that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you moved to the U.S. after your mom passed, or right before?
We moved right before she was diagnosed.
Okay, so there's adjustment there with the big move, and then that, and then, yeah.
That's a good point. Were you missing, like, was the move hard on you, or was that exciting, or what do you remember from that time?
You know, I don't remember much. I think it was nerve-wracking, but I think I was excited. Like, you hear so many stories about how great the United States is and this and that, and how the weather's nice, and
And then you came to Pennsylvania.
yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, honestly, I'm sure it was harder for my sister because we actually moved on her 14th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
And she was going into high school, so for me, I went straight into first grade, I think, whereas, like, for her,
That was, yeah.
oh yeah,
She had her friends set, and you were just getting started. So yeah, that's a whole different dynamic for both of you for sure.
Wow. Do you remember that affecting her, or that causing tension at home, or her being upset about it, or anything like that?
I think she was upset about it, but I recall times where she was allowed, she flew back to visit her friends from time to time, but I think think for her, she might have had an easier time at school. People liked her because of her accent, whereas in first grade, it's like, you're different. I
Got
don't like you.
It's tough.
So, yeah, I grew out of my accent pretty quickly.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm curious. One of the really interesting pieces about a step parent taking the role of a parent or, stepping into that figure, not that I'm saying she's replacing in any way, but it's always a toss up if that new person is going to be accepting of the deceased, if they're going to feel threatened by them, if it's going to be a complete taboo. We don't talk about that. You hear stories of person comes in, puts all the photos away, and there's no mention of this. Hopefully those stories are more ancient than recent, but what was that like for you? How did it feel like mom was a taboo subject after stepmom came in?
Absolutely not. So my dad went through that when he lost his mother, as his mother became a taboo subject. Every photo of her disappeared. She was erased from his life, and the only time he ever got to talk about her was when he was in the car with his dad,
Wow.
just by themselves. So he, of course, did not want me to go through that same thing. And so, he still carries around his car keys with a photo of her attached to it. She is very much a welcome subject in our house, and I don't think we have photos of her in the living room or whatnot. But my stepmom put together collages of each of me and my siblings with her, and we have them hanging on our bedroom walls, and she's done a lot of things, gotten us little Christmas ornaments that in the shape of an angel.
Oh.
And I think this past year, I don't remember if it was for a special occasion or not, but she got us these glass roses, and they're also meant to be sentimental value in terms of being able to remember my mom, and also her paying sentiment to her as well.
Yeah.
So you get into school, you start, new kid from different country, mom gets sick, mom passes. How do the kids in school deal with that with you when you're 9 years old?
I don't think a lot of them knew. I was in summer camp at the time that she had passed away, and I remember it was in the newspaper pretty quickly, and I remember kids coming up to me at summer camp and asking about it.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
And what did you say? I mean, how were those conversations? Did it feel almost I'm in the news? My mom's in the news? Or was it please stop bothering me? What did you?
I think at the time, because it was so fresh, it was just please don't ask.
Yeah.
And we had we got multiple versions of that newspaper, so we could cut out her little section and use them as bookmarks and whatnot.
That's very sweet. I love that.
But I don't know where mine disappeared to, unfortunately. But
Sometimes the memory is just as important as the actual item, I like to say. Sometimes we feel so heartbroken when we don't have an item that we remember from many years ago. And it's just, if you can picture it in your mind, that's almost just important sometimes as being able to hold it in your hands. So.
yeah, I'm sure I'll find it somewhere.
Let us know if you come across the bookmark.
I will. But yeah, a lot of kids were asking me about it. When I went back to school, I don't recall really telling anyone about it. But over time, it almost became one of the first things I told people, because that was when I was in middle school, it was the height of the yo mama jokes.
Yes.
And I hated them. And people that just didn't know.
Yeah.
So.
I never thought the Yo Mama jokes would come up in this. I mean,
Yes.
I can't imagine going through that, and especially that age.
Yeah.
Because my friends I remember how it was for me in middle school, and they no holds barred.
Yes. Yes.
And they, you just, were like, oh yeah, you're good, you can take it. But when you lose your mom that summer and you're hearing that's got to, ouch.
Oh yeah. I mean, luckily, I had a very, very good support system at school. I had two absolutely amazing teachers in 4th and 5th grade, which we ended up moving districts October of 5th grade. So the fact that my 5th grade teacher made that much of an impact on me is heartwarming. I've actually visited her like a few years ago when I was
Oh, that's sweet.
when I was in school. She moved to a different school, but I remember she had kept me back for to eat lunch with me one day because I had drawn a picture of my mom and I during like indoor recess or something, and it made her cry. And so she wrote a letter to me on the inside of a journal, and she gave it to me, and I still have it. It's probably in the bottom of a tote somewhere because I haven't unpacked from moving yet.
Talking about a lot of moves, I feel like, is the theme of this podcast. You move a lot.
Yeah, well, I've been there for a year and a half already.
That's funny.
My stuff just doesn't fit in this house.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, what kind of sticks out to you as things that surprised you about your grief and your bereavement growing up? I mean, like Jeff kind of identified in the beginning, you approach the topic very sort of matter of factly that this is what happened and this is what the ages were. And so how did this change throughout your life? Do you remember it hitting you again in your teen years? Do you remember going to college and looking around and everyone else's moms are helping? Like, how do you remember it changing throughout the years or not?
I mean, I honestly like pretty much exactly what you said. Like, going to like having my high school senior nights and seeing everyone with their mom there, and I took a photo of mine. I took my stepmom, and my dad, obviously, and I took a photo of my mom and I carried her with me, or like graduation and stuff like big milestones like that are kind of when it hits me the most. I'm like, I wish my mom were here to see this.
Yeah.
So like high school graduation, college graduation, I'm sure someday when I get married, like it'll hit me again. Like it's always gonna.
I was gonna ask, do you have a plan? Because you carried your mom's photo to senior night. Like people do whole rituals at their wedding, which I think can be really special. Do you have thoughts of like?
Oh yeah, I know for certain. I think what I want to do is like the first row would be like memorial.
I love
seats. I mean, I haven't lost anyone else that close to me yet. Knock on wood, it doesn't happen anytime soon.
Right.
And I don't think my boyfriend has really lost anyone too incredibly close to him either. But I would like to leave her a spot in the front row. So
I think that's
my
cool.
wedding. Mm-hmm. So.
Very cool.
Yeah,
But-
those milestones are, they're huge.
Yeah. Well, and I would say even this past weekend, I found out that someone that I was friends with growing up, like their mother had just passed from cancer. And I mean, I remember the day that like the entire swim team was told that she was diagnosed. And that was like 10, 15 years ago.
Wow.
She lived right up the street from us, and even though I wasn't close to her and I've kind of like drifted away from her kids, it just like it hit me again. I was like, these people, like these are friends of mine that are experiencing the exact same thing that I did at 9 years old. And like I was going through another like phase of grief, I felt like, because it just brought back so many emotions from what I felt like, and to know that other people are now currently going through that, just like really hits hard.
Yeah. Feels like it's always just kind of stirring right below the surface, but it's not always boiling under there. It's not that it's going to explode for the rest of your life, but you can always dip your toe in and get there pretty quickly, especially when it is a close loss, like a parent, a sibling, a caregiver.
Yeah.
We do say, people use the word stages a lot when they talk about grief. We talk about it as the process. Stages sort of implies that like, I'm done with that stage. Now I'm moving on to the next stage. And you could cycle back, you do this again. So the process is that lifelong piece that you're talking about, where it can come back just suddenly. And Jeff, not to scare you, it's not always as intense.
You know what? With Dad, it was the same way. There'll be something that pops. And you can compartmentalize it all you want, but that window opens and it's right there again. And, and if it's there, it's there. That means, I'm always going to miss her. I'm always going to love her. And I'm always going to want her to be part of my life in some way. And feeling that and talking about it, that helps. And I'm finding that out more and more as we go on here through the years and as much as we talk. And yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And Paige, it's cool to hear how well adjusted you come across. And not that you have to be perfectly adjusted all the time, but there are so many adults, and Jeff can attest to this, and you as well, who will say, I have unresolved grief from my childhood. I hear this phrase constantly. Now, this is my line of work, but even out and about on podcasts, I hear people say this constantly. I never worked through that. It's unresolved. And that really affects people, especially when they put that label on themselves. But not that I would say you have resolved grief per se, but I would never say you have unresolved grief, because you have been consistently addressing everything as it came up. And first it was your dad guiding you through that process and getting you connected. And maybe you had 3 therapists. Who knows if you needed 3 therapists, but we made sure we covered all our bases. And I think that is it's evident now, the way that you are able to process and share and help others with your story is because of the work you've done. And that is just a testament also to your resilience. So
thank you.
Yeah. All right. Paige, thank you so much for being here today. It was a pleasure talking to you. Jeff, I'm excited to tune back in with you and see how you were helped by our expert mom loss person here today.
Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Thank you
Paige,
for
before
having
you
me.
go, tell us your mom's name.
Claire.
Here's to Claire.
Here's to Claire.
We'll be right back on Guess Who Died.
Guess Who Died is brought to you by Olivia's House, a grief and loss center for children. Olivia's House is a community-funded organization that provides comfort and education to families when they need it most, and we are able to keep our doors open thanks to donations from people just like you. Find out ways to support or get support from Olivia's House by visiting www.oliviashouse.org.
Welcome back to Guess Who Died. Jeff, how are you feeling after that?
Still very thankful because I had mom through all that. And when she said she was 6 after a move and then her mom was diagnosed with brain cancer, and that's when you really start to really, really get close to your parents and your mom. My mom and I were close early on, and I can't imagine at 6 when I was starting a new life with our step family, if she would have gotten sick. I don't know what that would have looked like. I would have gone to live with my dad. I don't know what that would have looked like. Mm-hmm. So it would have been a whole different kind of situation, but similar, because she had the step family, that whole thing fell into place, she said, pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And that was another thing to deal with. So you're dealing with the grief and the new family, and it just all and the fact that her dad got her into therapy right away because he had been through it.
Yes.
I'm just, the word is thankful. And I will always be thankful for the years that I had. And when she was talking about the what's the word I'm looking for? The important times in her life, graduation, senior nights, her upcoming marriage someday, kids someday maybe, and mom's not there, and how she still finds that grieving show its face when she least expects it.
Yeah.
And it's always with us. And I think that's a situation we're going to learn as we go in life, and as I go, as she goes, it's just going to be there.
Yeah.
When you least expect it.
Yes. Yes. I think it was so cool that she shared how she took the picture of her mom to senior night, because we can create these moments where we are having reverence or are having ritual. But that might not be when the emotion hits us. For Paige, it was when she found out that her friend's mom died after a 15-year battle with cancer. And another piece, even going back to the your mama jokes.
Oh, man.
That in itself, it's painful because you're thinking, don't make the joke because the joke is rude and my mom is dead and don't do that. There's a whole other side to that, which is even just someone saying the phrase, your mama. When your mom has died, people don't usually say that phrase anymore. You don't get your mom's on her way. Your mom's on the phone. Mm-hmm. You don't get a your mom anymore.
No.
So that is the knife already before the your mama joke is even made. And that's what even sometimes kids don't get, is just even hearing that being thrown around in the hallway is all these daggers in your heart that I'm not going to get that phrase anymore, even in a good way.
That's true. And the fact that it didn't happen during a school year,
Yeah.
I wonder what that dynamic would have been like for her. It was tough enough that she had to deal with questions at camp, and to have to be in school and deal with it while you're in school, the brunt force of it all.
Yeah.
And she had a little buffer time to get back to school at least.
Yeah.
But those jokes, that was the thing that was triggering for her. And,
Totally.
she turned out pretty damn good.
She agreed. Agreed. The poise, the maturity, the ability to talk about it, I think is really special. And again, a testament to the work that she's done, similar to yourself. You being able to sit here and talk about it and bring it up on air at your job, that is a testament to you being willing to go there and you already starting the work. And that's an incredible legacy to your mom.
I think I've laughed more than I've cried because of all the stories and the memories. They always creep in, and I love it.
Did you hear Paige say the exact same thing
Yeah.
you did? She said it almost the exact same way. I love telling stories because sometimes it's sad, but I usually find myself laughing more than...
When she said that, I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Yep.
Already.
Yep. The chocolate milk and the what?
Garlic bread. I might try it. It doesn't sound terrible.
Actually sounds good. I know what we're having tonight. All right, Jeff, another great episode. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your mom with us.
Happy to.
All right, everyone, tune in next time. Join Jeff, Casey, and myself and find out who died. Guess Who Died is an Olivia's House production, sponsored in part by the M&M Lissauer Family Foundation.